Ethan Cole wasn't just a billionaire. He was the voice of a generation, adored by millions for turning ordinary people into global influencers. His voice built his empire, but one brutal night, under blinding stage lights and roaring cheers, betrayal struck like a knife across the throat. His best friend exposed a truth the world was too hungry not to believe, and Ethan's voice, his greatest weapon, collapsed into suffocating silence. Why did the crowd celebrate his downfall? How does a hero become a villain in a single heartbeat? What happens when the loudest man alive can no longer speak? The cameras didn't just witness his shock. They fed on it. Flashbulbs crackled as Ethan clutched his throat, terror flooding his eyes. Panic. Shame. A soundless scream. His security rushed him away, but the damage was already viral. Hours earlier, Ethan had been preparing to announce a charity that would expose corruption inside Congress and Silicon Valley. He expected applause, but enemies were already waiting with a darker narrative. His closest friend, Trevor Burke, walked onto that stage with evidence suggesting Ethan had been manipulating billions of users. The world chose the juiciest version. Power but also paranoia. Fame but also fragility. Ethan was rushed into his private clinic, doctors poking and scanning, but no medical explanation surfaced. His vocal cords were physically perfect, yet he couldn't force out even a whisper. Trauma had stolen the one thing that made him unstoppable. Once adored, now accused. The next morning, newspapers printed his silence as confirmation of guilt. Headlines screamed, "The tyrant's voice is gone." He hid the truth until the truth shut him up. Ethan locked himself away in a fortress-like mansion, the staff instructed to keep their distance. He communicated through cold text messages, not because he wanted to, but because fear suffocated every attempt to speak. Insomnia became his shadow. He replayed Trevor's betrayal on loop. The board removed him as CEO. Lawsuits multiplied. Politicians announced investigations. Friends unfollowed. Fans turned hashtags into weapons. He wasn't just living in silence. He was drowning in it. Yet deep inside his mansion existed a small spark of humanity he kept hidden. A mother and daughter who cleaned the hallways no one else entered. The daughter, Amara Reyes, carried an energy that disrupted silence like sunshine invading a locked room. Ethan avoided her, but he noticed the way she hummed while working and how her laughter dared to exist even in the home of a man falling apart. Foreshadowing hung in the air like a whispered prophecy. Ethan believed his silence had ended his story, but destiny had simply pressed pause. Because the girl everyone overlooked would one day become the only person capable of giving him back something more powerful than a voice. Ethan Cole's mansion was built for grandeur, but now it felt like a prison lined with gold and haunted by echoes of a missing voice. The household staff moved like ghosts, terrified of disturbing the billionaire's fragile existence. No one spoke to him unless absolutely necessary. His silence spread like a rulebook written in invisible ink. Everyone obeyed. Everyone except one. Amara Reyes walked through those silent halls with buckets, rags, and zero fear. Her mother, Lucia, had worked for the Cole family for years, but Amara was new, stepping in to help pay medical bills for her younger brother. She wasn't awed by wealth, she found the mansion more suffocating than stunning. One afternoon, while Ethan sat in his study staring at a speech he no longer could deliver, he heard something foreign. A voice. Bright, soft, stubbornly alive. A girl was singing. His eyes narrowed. His jaw clenched. Someone dared to bring joy into his tomb of misery? He stormed down the hallway, footsteps hard and thunderous. When he turned the corner, he found Amara, earbuds dangling, twirling the mop like a dance partner. She froze at the sight of him, but instead of apologizing or fleeing, she smiled. "Sorry, Mr. Cole. Didn't think anyone was listening." Ethan pointed to his throat, shaking his head, signaling she must stop. Rage simmered, triggered by envy. How effortlessly she used what he had lost. Amara didn't cower. She took out a small notepad and scribbled something before showing it to him. "Do you like music?" His eyes flickered with confusion. People avoided questions around him. They tiptoed like he might explode. He grabbed the pen. "Not anymore." She read the words and tilted her head sympathetically, but there was no pity. Only curiosity. Lucia rushed in horrified. "Amara, you do not speak to Mr. Cole. He prefers space." Amara shrugged. "Maybe space isn't what he needs." Ethan stared at the girl who challenged silence like it was optional. Lucia dragged her away, apologizing repeatedly, but Ethan didn't move. He watched Amara until she disappeared. That night Ethan dreamed. In the nightmare, Trevor stood over him laughing, microphones twisting into snakes. Cameras flashed like electric whips. He tried to shout, to fight back, but nothing came. The silence mocked him. He woke up gasping, sweating, clutching the sheets. Downstairs he heard humming again. Instead of anger, curiosity tugged at him. Why wasn't she afraid? Why did her light irritate his darkness? Why did her voice feel like friction sparking against his numb world? He approached the balcony overlooking the garden. Below, Amara sat with her little brother, gently teaching him how to pronounce words. The boy struggled, stuttering. She comforted him. You're not broken. You just need time to be heard. A sentence like lightning. Ethan's breath caught. He touched his throat. Was his silence punishment? Or protection? Amara looked up and caught him watching. She waved. He didn't wave back, but something inside him shifted. Silence no longer felt like the end. It felt like the beginning of a story he didn't understand yet. A week passed and Ethan Cole tried to pretend the shift inside him didn't exist. He still hid in muted rooms and typed orders instead of speaking, but whenever he heard Amara's footsteps or her quiet songs, the silence felt less like chains and more like a cocoon slowly splitting open. Amara meanwhile hadn't forgotten their encounter. She sensed that beneath Ethan's arrogance lived a broken man struggling not to drown. She didn't pity him, but she didn't fear him either. That made her dangerous to the walls he built. Outside the mansion, the world continued its brutal crusade. News channels dissected Ethan like vultures picking at a carcass. Influencers who once begged for his approval now celebrated his downfall. Protesters camped at the gates, chanting accusations, "Thief of voices! Release the truth!" Trevor Burke made sure the flames never died. He appeared in interviews, dripping with fake concern. "I just want Ethan to do the right thing and admit his crimes," Trevor sighed into cameras, the perfect wolf in a halo. Every lie slipped into the world like poison. A journalist managed to breach security one morning. She shoved through a cluster of startled guards and ran straight toward the main doors. Amara was polishing the marble floor when the chaos erupted. "There he is," the reporter shouted, spotting Ethan through the glass wall as he slowly descended the staircase. "Mr. Cole, why won't you defend yourself? Silence means guilt." Ethan froze. Panic clawed his lungs. He backed away, vision spinning. Security finally tackled the intruder, but not before she lobbed a final blow. "Millions trusted you. Did you silence them like you silenced her?" Her words slammed into him like a brick. Ethan stumbled, falling to his knees. The memory of a woman's horrified scream surfaced, fractured and incomplete. He couldn't remember her face. He didn't understand the accusation. Fear ripped through him. Amara rushed forward, placing herself between Ethan and the chaos. She held out her arms defensively even though she had no authority, no power. "Back off," she snapped at the reporter already being dragged away. "Leave him alone. Can't you see he can't even breathe?" Ethan stared up at her, stunned. Nobody defended him anymore. That night the mansion seemed darker. Ethan sat in his study trembling as the rumor replayed. Silenced her. Who was she? What had they twisted into this? Amara gently knocked on the doorframe, holding a tray. Tea and a handwritten note. "Panic lies. Breathe." He looked at her, confused. She shrugged. "It's what I tell my brother when words hurt him." Ethan swallowed. His fingers shook as he wrote. "Why did you defend me?" Amara leaned in, her eyes steady. "Because silence is not guilt. And because pain doesn't make you a monster." The honesty hit him harder than any accusation. For the first time since losing his voice, Ethan didn't feel alone. He felt seen. Even the strongest walls began to crack from a single "two." "See." Ethan sat awake long after the mansion fell quiet. Amara's words pulsed inside him like a heartbeat rediscovered. He felt ridiculous, clinging to a maid's daughter for strength. Yet nothing and no one else had pierced the numbness. He watched old recordings of his speeches, trying to connect with the man he used to be. Confident. Fearless. Loud. The audience had adored him. The world had listened. That version of Ethan felt like a stranger now, someone wearing his face but none of his fear. A file notification pinged his laptop. A new leak. Another accusation. This one worse. A trending headline flashed. Ethan Cole blackmailed senator's daughter into silence. It hit like a gunshot. His heartbeat hammered. His hands trembled. That same blurry memory flashed. A woman screaming. Glass breaking. His voice roaring in anger. Then darkness. He slammed his laptop shut and stumbled toward his medication drawer, searching for anything to quiet the storm inside his mind. As he fumbled with the pills, the drawer slipped and crashed to the floor. Bottles scattered everywhere. Amara rushed into the doorway, alerted by the noise. You okay? He froze. Her presence again carved a path through panic. She noticed the pills, worry knitting her eyebrows. Nightmare? He nodded. She stepped closer, crouched, and helped gather the bottles. Her voice softened. My brother has these nights too. When the world feels too loud even for silence. He hesitated, then typed on his phone. There are things I can't remember. They say I hurt someone. What if they're right? Amara placed a hand over the screen gently, blocking the words. Trauma lies. Fear lies more. Then she pointed at his chest. Memory isn't supposed to torture you. Her confidence unnerved him. How could someone so young wield such strength? She sat beside him on the cold floor. Maybe your silence isn't just a wound. Maybe it's your mind protecting you from something too big to face alone. His gaze locked onto hers, searching for disbelief or judgment. There was none. She carefully lifted his hand and placed a pen in it along with her notebook. If you can't speak the truth yet, write it. Write everything you remember, even the broken pieces. He swallowed. The thought terrified him, but her faith made it possible. Not tonight, she added with a small smile. Tonight you sleep without fear. Before leaving, she set a small object on his desk, a cheap, colorful stress ball shaped like a cartoon star. For when the universe tries to crush you, she grinned. After she left, Ethan stared at the stress ball like it were a clue. A reminder that fragility doesn't erase worth. He looked out the window at the moon hidden by clouds. A faint whisper escaped his throat. Barely a sound. Miracle. Amma? His voice cracked, vanishing instantly, but the attempt left chills down his spine. He wasn't healed. Yet something new stirred. Hope wasn't whispering anymore. It was trying to speak. Trevor Burke had always been charming in the way wolves are charming when they smile before biting. He knew how to manipulate the narrative. He knew the world adored a villain more than a hero. Especially when the villain used to be their hero. He showed up at Ethan's mansion uninvited, wearing a remorseful expression that fooled almost everyone. Security escorted him toward the study, but Ethan refused to come down. He stayed upstairs, peering through the railings like a prisoner watching his executioner. Trevor spread his arms theatrically. You can't avoid me forever, Ethan. People want answers. Ethan clenched the stress ball Amara gave him, heart pounding like terrified hooves. Trevor continued, voice dripping sympathy. I'm just trying to help you save what little reputation you have left. Let me speak on your behalf. You need someone who can use their voice after all. The sentence cut deeper than knives. Before Ethan could retreat completely, Amara entered with cleaning supplies. She paused, sensing tension like a storm in the air. Trevor noticed her and smiled the wrong kind of smile. Well, hello. I didn't know Ethan was entertaining guests. She's staff, Ethan typed and showed him sharply, refusing to let Trevor twist this into something ugly. Trevor smirked. You sure? She looks like trouble. Then he leaned closer to Ethan, lowering his voice. Be careful. When you're weak, the wrong people cling. Ethan's nails dug into his palm. Trevor wasn't warning him. He was threatening her. Amara stepped forward before Ethan could react. Maybe the wrong people are the ones who talk too much, she replied boldly. Trevor blinked, surprised someone dared confront him. And who might you be to offer opinions? The person who actually sees him, Amara said calmly. Not the man you're trying to destroy. Security moved closer in case Trevor snapped, but he chuckled instead, amused and irritated. Cute. Little hero. He faced Ethan again. You think silence will save you? It won't. If you don't let me control the story, I'll make sure the world writes your ending for you. Ethan trembled. There it was, Trevor's real power. Manipulation. Control. Trevor tapped his watch. You have 48 hours. After that, your empire burns entirely. With a final chilly smirk, he left the mansion doors yawning open in his wake. The silence afterward felt poisoned. Amara approached cautiously and found Ethan gripping the railing so hard his knuckles whitened. Don't listen to him, she whispered. He scribbled a message so aggressively the pen nearly tore the page. He knows something. Something about that girl. Amara placed a steadying hand on his arm. Then we find the truth before he destroys you with it. He looked into her determined eyes and felt a protective instinct ignite, something fierce, something alive. Trevor had underestimated Ethan. Mistake number 1. He had underestimated Amara. Mistake number 2. And soon, the world would learn that even silence can roar. The mansion felt colder that night, as if Trevor's visit left a chill clinging to every surface. Ethan barely slept. His mind kept replaying fragments of the mysterious woman, the scream, the glass, his own rage echoing back at him. He needed answers, but fear stitched his lips tighter than trauma alone ever did. Near midnight, thunder grumbled across the sky. Heavy rain smeared the windows. Ethan wandered the halls, anxiety pushing him forward with restless steps. He found himself at the doorway of the old media room, the place he stored his private recordings. The security code accepted his trembling finger. Inside, screens flickered like restless ghosts. He searched for footage, anything from the night in his memory. Nothing. Entire weeks had been deleted. His chest tightened. Trevor had once managed Ethan's PR, and had access to everything. Someone erased the truth. Lightning cracked outside and the room went black. Power outage. Ethan froze. Then the screens glowed again by themselves. A video began to play. Ethan on stage months ago. Confident, vibrant. A woman in the front row, crying. Reaching for him. Security dragging her away while Ethan's voice roared. Get her out of here. He flinched. That voice sounded like a stranger wearing his face. His breath hitched. The next clip appeared. The same woman, alone in a hospital hallway, lips trembling, eyes empty of hope. She whispered into a camera shakily. He promised to help us, then silenced me, and now they'll silence my mother too. Her voice cracked. Please don't let him bury us. The video glitched, then ended abruptly. Ethan staggered backward, gasping for air. He didn't remember any of this. He didn't remember her. He didn't know he could look like someone capable of cruelty. Suddenly, a soft hand touched his shoulder. Mara. Ethan? I saw the security feed. Are you okay? He pointed frantically at the screen, desperation flaring in his eyes. The question no longer whispered, it screamed. What if Trevor was right? Amara examined the footage calmly, then shook her head. This isn't the whole story. Look closer. The jumps, the missing context. It's edited. Her certainty fought against his despair. A sound outside the room snapped them to attention. Footsteps. Heavy. Approaching. Not security, too stealthy. Amara grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him behind an equipment shelf. The media room door creaked open. A man entered, face hidden beneath a hood, holding a small electronic device. He walked straight to the computer system and inserted the device into the port. A deletion bar appeared. He was erasing evidence. Amara's hand flew to her mouth. The hooded figure whispered into a phone. Tell Burke it's handled. No loose ends. Trevor. Ethan's hand shook with fury, veins pulsing violently. The man removed the device and slipped out. Silence smothered the room again. Amara turned to Ethan, voice low but resolute. You didn't silence that woman. Trevor did. Realization slammed into Ethan like a riptide. His silence wasn't guilt. It was the result of being silenced. His trauma wasn't weakness. It was the consequence of survival. Tears welled in his eyes, not from fear but from a burning need to reclaim his truth. For the first time since losing his voice, Ethan felt something rise in his chest. Courage. It wanted to speak. Morning rose like a judge peering over the world's sins. Rain still dripped from the mansion roof, but inside Ethan felt a different storm brewing. No more numbness. No more surrender. Trevor wanted to control the story. Fine. Ethan would write a new one. Amara paced the study, thinking through what they witnessed. If he's deleting evidence, that means the truth is on those files. She looked at Ethan. We need to recover everything Trevor tried to erase. Ethan typed with fierce purpose. We expose him. Her lips curved into a bold, dangerous smile. Now you're sounding like the fighter everyone remembers. Ethan swallowed hard. He wished he could say the words out loud. Amara stood close enough that he felt her warmth pushing back the cold fear inside him. Her eyes flicked to his throat. Try again. His breath wavered. His pulse drummed against his skin. He wanted to speak, but doubt clamped down like a vice. He clenched the small star-shaped stress ball. The rubber squeaked. He inhaled, slow and shaky. A hoarse, fragile sound escaped. Ma. Her eyes widened, gleaming with pride rather than pity. There you are. The burn in his throat was sharp, but his heart surged. He grabbed a pen and scribbled, letters bold and defiant. Trevor won't win. Amara nodded. Then we hit back fast. Before they could plan further, Lucia burst into the room, face pale, hands trembling. It's your mother, she said breathlessly to Amara. The hospital called. She's fading. Amara stiffened as fear washed through her. Her mother's illness had been worsening for months, and they barely scraped together the costs of treatment. Ethan's heart dropped. The world expanded beyond his own suffering long enough to realize hers existed too. Amara struggled to regain focus. "I'll go after we finish." Trevor moves quickly. Ethan reached for her hand to stop her. He shook his head firmly, typing, "Family first." "I'll come." Her breath caught. "No, it's not safe. The reporters." "Trevor." He wrote faster. "You protected me. Let me protect you." Amara stared at him as if seeing a different man than the broken billionaire who hid in shadows. Strength had returned to his spine. Fire had returned to his eyes. Lucia wiped tears from her cheeks. "We must hurry." Security cars lined up at the entrance, engines rumbling. The gates were surrounded by protesters and paparazzi hungry for more blood. Ethan's anxiety threatened to choke him, but Amara squeezed his hand. "Whatever happens, you're not alone." The car doors opened. Flashing cameras exploded. Voices shouted venom. "Criminal? Where's your voice, Ethan?" "Afraid." "Tell us about the senator's daughter." Ethan stopped in the rain. Dripping. Shaking. Angry. Something inside him snapped, the part that agreed with their hate. He turned to the crowd, jaw tight, eyes pulsing with life. A single word scraped out, raw and imperfect. "No." The crowd gasped. Security froze. Amara's smile flickered like sunrise. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't loud. Yet the world felt it. His voice wasn't gone. It was wah. King up. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and quiet despair. The kind of place where time slowed down and hope felt rationed. Amara walked quickly, pushing through swinging doors until they reached a small, dimly lit room. Machines beeped softly like tired lullabies. Lucia went straight to the bedside, holding her wife's fragile hand. Mrs. Reyes looked impossibly small beneath the sheets. Her skin was pale, lips cracked, breath shallow. Amara bit her trembling lip, trying not to show fear. Ethan lingered near the door, uncertain if his presence helped or made things worse. Mrs. Reyes slowly opened her eyes. They fluttered, then focused, first on Amara, then gliding toward Ethan. Recognition flickered. Her hand twitched. Amara leaned close. "Mama, he's safe. I promise." Mrs. Reyes stared harder at Ethan. Something like fear, or sorrow, washed through her features. Ethan felt a jolt in his chest. He stepped closer, unsure. Then Mrs. Reyes whispered, voice raspy. "You." The word struck deep. Ethan's legs went rigid. He pointed to himself with confusion and anxiety. Mrs. Reyes nodded weakly. Tears slipped from the corner of her eye. Lucia rushed to wipe the tears, whispering comfort. "He's a friend, Querida." Amara helped him. Mrs. Reyes shook her head, refusing the narrative. Her voice quivered. "The scandal? It wasn't him?" Amara's breath caught. "You know about it?" Mrs. Reyes nodded again, gaze heavy with truth she feared to speak. Ethan quickly scribbled on a notepad. "The woman in the video. Do you know her?" Mrs. Reyes' lips parted. A trembling exhale. She lifted a shaking hand and pointed at Amara. Silence cracked through the room like thunder. Amara recoiled. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Me? That's impossible. I would remember." Mrs. Reyes struggled to speak, chest rising in painful jerks. "The girl in the footage was your sister." Lucia gasped. "No, stop. Don't do this to her." Amara's eyes widened in disbelief. "I don't have a sister." Lucia paled, clutching Mrs. Reyes' shoulders. Mrs. Reyes coughed violently, pushing each word out like broken glass. "She disappeared after fighting Ethan's company over data leaks, corruption. She tried to expose them. Trevor found out." Lucia tried to hush her. "You promised we'd keep Amara safe. Don't drag her into." Mrs. Reyes cried harder. Trevor silenced her because she knew too much. Amara staggered backward, hand gripping her stomach to keep from collapsing. Tears burst free. "My sister. Trevor murdered my sister." Ethan's own heart ripped open. Every accusation, every rumor suddenly pointed at the real monster. Trevor wasn't just covering up corruption. He was covering up a crime. A reporter outside yelled through the window, spotting Ethan. "Breaking news. Ethan Cole visits hospital of dying woman connected to the scandal." Cameras flashed like sirens. Ethan suddenly stepped in front of the window, shielding the Reyes family from the cameras. He glared at the swarm outside. His silence was no longer fear. It was a vow. No more running. No more doubt. He would expose Trevor. He would speak for the voiceless. Especially for Amara's sister. Trevor Burke wasn't hiding anymore. He held a massive press conference at the headquarters Ethan built, cameras gleaming like knives waiting to carve reputations. He arrived smiling, dripping sympathy as if lies were perfume. "Ethan Cole is dangerous," he told the nation, shaking his head with fake heartbreak. He silenced a young woman who tried to expose his crimes. Now he hides behind hospital patients and pity. Reporters scribbled, hungry for more destruction. Inside a dark SUV parked across the street, Ethan listened. A microphone lay in his lap. A real one. Not symbolic. Not imaginary. A device that could resurrect everything. He could speak today. Not much, not perfectly, but enough. Amara sat beside him, eyes burning with righteous fury. "Trevor wants you to remain silent. Which means your voice is the very thing that can destroy him." Ethan stared at the building he once called home. The empire he built now served his enemy. His fingers tapped the stress ball Amara gave him. His lungs tightened. Doubt clawed at him with the ferocity of old wounds. Could he face millions waiting for him to fail? Amara took his hand in both of hers. Every voice that ever mattered shook the first time it stood against power. Ethan exhaled. They stepped out together. Protesters shouted the moment they saw him. A sea of angry faces, chants like stones being hurled. "Killer. Fraud. Speak if you're innocent. Tell us about the girl." Ethan walked through them, trembling but unbroken. Every step was a war. Security tried to block the crowd, but Ethan raised a shaky hand, silencing even the guards. The cameras locked onto him. Trevor's smile faltered. Ethan climbed the steps slowly. His voice had abandoned him once. Now it returned like a flame resurrected. He stared straight into the main broadcast camera. His throat burned as if fire itself lived inside it. He pressed the mic to his lips. "Enough." Gasps rippled outward. Trevor stepped forward. "Ethan, this isn't wise." Ethan's glare sliced him mid-sentence. He continued, voice fragile but gaining strength. "For months, I stayed silent because I thought, maybe you were right. Maybe I deserved this." A hush fell. Every word was a battle he refused to lose. "There was a woman, someone who tried to tell me the truth. I failed her, not because I silenced her but because my best friend did, and I didn't see it until too late." Reporters leaned in, senses igniting like wildfire. Ethan's voice cracked. "Her sister is watching. I speak for her now." Trevor moved to cut the broadcast. Security blocked him. Journalists formed a barrier, sensing a revolution. Ethan lifted his chin, a phoenix reclaiming the sky. "You silenced her because she knew too much. You silenced me because I was the only one who could stop you." Trevor's mask shattered, rage replacing the performance. Ethan stepped closer until they were nose to nose. "You took my voice to steal the world. Now I take it back, to save it." The crowd erupted. Fury. Awakening. Trevor lunged forward, grabbed Ethan's collar and hissed. "You think this ends me?" Ethan stared back, unshaking. "It begins you." Security tore Trevor away as officers surged in. Reporters called it a coup of truth. The internet exploded. Ethan just looked at Amara. Her tears weren't of fear. They were victory. His voice had returned. Not perfect, not polished, but powerful. Sirens howled behind the corporate tower as Trevor was dragged into custody. Reporters swarmed, broadcasting Ethan's resurrection to every screen in the nation. Millions watched the man once deemed broken finally rise. Amara reached Ethan before the crowd could swallow him again. She threw her arms around him, grounding him in warmth and reality. His breath steadied against her shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. His voice trembled but carried hope. "We did." Confetti began to fall from somewhere above. At least it felt like confetti. In truth, it was shredded copies of Trevor's last press release, raining down like a poetic cleansing. Ethan didn't want applause. He only wanted peace. Later, in a quiet hospital room, Ethan found Maya sitting up, fragile yet glowing with survival. She whispered gratitude, each word a scrap of courage rediscovered. "Your voice saved mine," she told him. Amara smiled proudly, though shadows flickered behind her eyes. Ethan promised Maya the world would now hear her truth. The system that tried to bury her would instead elevate her. Justice wasn't a dream anymore. It was a living thing. As he tucked a blanket around Maya, Ethan noticed Amara staring at the window, distant. Outside, cameras flashed even here. The world refused to look away. "Amara?" Ethan asked softly. She turned, a smile painted too carefully. "I'm just relieved." Ethan reached for her hand. When this is over, I want a life with you. Her breath caught. You mean that? With everything I am. Emotion trembled through her like an earthquake barely contained. She kissed him, and for a heartbeat the world paused. Later that evening, Ethan discovered an old folder left on his office desk by investigators. Inside were the original encrypted files that Trevor tried so desperately to erase. Documents. Financial trails. Hidden recordings. One video file was labeled, "Play only if you love her." His pulse spiked. His thumb hovered over the screen. He hesitated, almost afraid of the truth behind those words. The video loaded. A dark room. A hidden camera. A voice whispering, "You want us to bring him down? Then you'll get what you want, and I get what I want." Amara's face emerged from the shadows. Ethan froze. Amara continued in the footage, expression cold, calculating. He needs to lose his voice. Without that, he's helpless. Then he'll finally need someone like me. Trevor's laugh slithered through the speakers. "You're ruthless." "Just make sure he believes it was you alone," she replied sharply. "I need him to hate you. Not me." Ethan staggered, air rushing out of his lungs like a fatal blow. His hands shook violently. The woman who saved his voice was the one who helped steal it. His heart ruptured. The door behind him creaked. Amara stood there, tears forming faster than excuses. "I didn't know he would go that far," she choked out. "I thought he'd just lose a deal, not his entire world." Ethan's voice was quiet, too quiet. "You destroyed me, so I would need you?" She fell to her knees. "I loved you before you ever saw me. I never wanted to lose you again." "Again?" Ethan whispered. Amara lifted her eyes. "I was the girl in the parking garage. The night the world ended for you. I was right there. Trevor paid me to distract you. That's why you didn't see the attacker coming." Ethan stumbled back, the puzzle assembling into a nightmare. She was the beginning of his downfall, and the architect of his resurrection. The silence between them roared louder than any scream. Amara sobbed. "I fixed what I broke. Doesn't that count for something?" Ethan's voice cracked, wounded beyond healing. "No, it only proves you knew exactly how to break me." The strength he found in her now twisted into chains he needed to escape. He walked past her without another word. The cameras outside waited to crown him a hero, but heroes are never as whole as they seem. The world would celebrate his victory. While inside, Ethan Cole died quietly again. Not from betrayal this time, but from love.